Hi, my name is Eric Mead and I'm the executive chef of Mount Carmel East Hospital, and today we're going to be doing a recipe from the Recipes for Healthy Living cookbook, the butternut squash soup. So the first thing we're going to want to do is gather all of our ingredients. I have everything I need here. I have a heavy bottom soup pot that I have under medium-high heat. Have a butternut squash, celery, carrot, Granny Smith apple, yellow onion, salt, pepper, dried sage, chili powder, oil, a little Greek yogurt, and vegetable stock. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, while we have our pot going, we can go ahead and add our oil. Get that in there. And we want to add the vegetables that are going to take the longest to cook. So right now we're going to do our carrot. So I'm going to go ahead and get this carrot peeled, and we're just going to do a rough chop on this. It doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be all uniform sizes, because this dish is going to get blended in, at the end. So this is just all flavor that we're looking for. So I am going to go ahead and cut this lengthwise in half. Okay, then I'm just going to give it a rough chop. Okay, and as you're adding this to your hot oil, be very careful. Okay, I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit. Okay. Next, I'm going to add the celery. Celery has already been cleaned, and I'm just going to give that a rough chop as well. Okay. We'll do the same thing with our onion. I'm going to cut that in half. And cut a large dice. Okay. And all of our vegetables, we want to saute this for about 10 to 12 minutes. Making sure that we move it around frequently so it doesn't stick or burn. Okay. Next, we will give a rough chop to our Granny Smith apple, being careful not to add any of the seeds. It does not need to be peeled. We'll take that, do a rough chop on the apple. Okay, add this to our pan. And the apple will bring out a nice sweet flavor in this soup. The squash already has a sweetness to it, but it will pair very nicely with the onion and the carrot and the celery. Okay, so one thing we want to do, our butternut squash has already been cleaned. Butternut squash is, it's not really a difficult vegetable to work with, but you do have to be very careful when you are peeling it. It does have an odd, shape. You see it's smaller at the top, wider at the bottom. So what I like to do is take off the top, and we just want to stabilize it. We'll take off the top, and then we'll take off the bottom. A lot of chefs like to call this, squaring it off, but that just gives us a nice, even surface to work on. Then you just want to take your vegetable peeler and just get that thick layer of skin off. Okay. Be very careful, watch your fingers. This doesn't peel as easily as a carrot or a potato or anything like that. The skin is a lot thicker, so you do want to be careful, but you do want to make sure that you get it all off. You don't want to eat that. And one thing to note, if you don't want to go through all of this, the peeling and the cutting of the butternut squash, most grocery stores do sell this already prefabricated. It will already be cut up in a little container, probably about a pound, half a pound, something like that. It does cost a little more, but you know, it does save you a lot of time and potential injury. Okay, just about done with this peeling. All right, we got all our skin off. I'll move these scraps to the side. And the easiest way to cut butternut squash take it, cut it directly down the middle. Be very careful with your fingers. And that's what we have. Now, we want to take a spoon and we want to dig out the fibrous inside and the seeds. Just kind of give it a scrape there. Might have to get your fingers in there and pull it out as well. If you have an ice cream scoop handy, that also works as well. But you just want to get that out. Okay, got that one done. I got that one done. Now we want to cut these into like 1-inch pieces. Again, just a rough cut. Stir your vegetables, make sure that they're not burning, which we're looking good. And we'll take this and cut strips. Turn to the side, and we'll come down again. Again, be very careful. Butternut squash is a very hard vegetable. It's very dense, and it does tend to get a little slick sometimes on your cutting board. So we're going to want to take that, and then we'll add that in. So we've been sauteing and cooking down our vegetable mixture for about 10 to 15 minutes. And our vegetables are softening up real nice. So now we can go ahead and add our spice mix. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to add a little chili powder. And a little sage. And then just a pinch of salt. We're just going to use a pinch right now because if we add too much right now, you can always add salt. You can't take it out. So we just need a little bit for right now. If you don't want to use chili powder, you can always use cinnamon, nutmeg, spices like that to make like a sweeter soup. You know, as we mix this, as we mix the spices in, we're also going to add our vegetable stock. You can also use chicken stock if you don't need to make it vegetarian. But today we're going to keep this vegetarian. We'll go with this veggie stock. We are going to let this simmer. Now that we have everything in the pot, we're going to let this simmer for about 40 minutes or until our carrots and our butternut squash are nice and tender. Okay, and we're back. It's been about 40 minutes and our soup is looking beautiful. Everything is very nicely combined. The vegetables are nice and soft. Our butternut squash is nice and soft. Carrots are there. So now what we want to do is we want to blend this up. So today we're going to be using an Immersion Blender, but there are a few things you can do if you don't. Not everybody has an Immersion Blender in their house. Most of us have a blender, but even if you don't have a blender, you can use the back of your spoon. You can use a whisk to kind of, you know, mash it up. You can use a potato masher. That would work really nice. If you're going to use a blender, you want to make sure you do this. This is a hot liquid, so you want to make sure that you're doing this in very small batches. You know, you take a cup, dip it in, put it in your blender, make sure you're holding that lid on there very securely, and then you can blend it up to whatever consistency you'd like. Today we're going to make this a smooth soup. So we're going to go ahead and actually remove this from the heat. We'll turn our heat off. I'll bring it over to our cutting board. And we got our immersion blender here. Now you can find immersion blenders in, you know, pretty much any big box store, Walmart, Target. You can get them on Amazon, 20, 30 bucks. You don't have to spend a lot of money on these, but this is a nice tool to have in your, at home. So we're just gonna go ahead and put this here, get it in there, and we'll go ahead and start blending. And while you're doing this, you just want to move it around. And this soup, you can really, you know, you can blend it as much as you want. If you want it a little chunkier, leave it a little chunkier. If you want it nice and smooth, you know, you'll just blend it a little longer. So we're going to try to get pretty smooth here. We're almost there. Okay, I think we're good enough where we can show the final product. Okay, go ahead and unplug this from the wall. All right, and there we have our healthy butternut squash soup. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Amy Shea, and I'm nutrition faculty with Mount Carmel College of Nursing. And today we're going to talk about the butternut squash soup that you just saw prepared by Chef Eric. So squash is actually one of the oldest known crops, dating back 10,000 years to Mexico and Central America. It has a pretty mild flavor, a little bit sweet, kind of nutty. It's kind of like a cross between a sweet potato and a carrot. And as you can see on the slide, some of the nutrition information about butternut squash includes they are pretty low in calories, not too many carbohydrates, and a lot of the carbohydrates are good, healthy fiber that's going to be good to help keep your blood sugar under control. In addition, it's basically fat-free, very little sodium, if any, so this is a great choice when it comes to heart health as well. In addition, butternut squash provides more than 100% of your daily need for vitamin A. So that's an awesome, important nutrient for us to get. Another important fact about butternut squash is that actually one serving provides about 87% water, and so it can actually help keep you hydrated, believe it or not. A couple other interesting facts about butternut squash. They are very high in carotenoids, particularly alpha carotene and beta carotene. And those nutrients get converted into vitamin A, which is important for immunity. So these nutrients can help support a strong immune system. Another interesting thing about butternut squash is it contains two phytochemicals called lutein and zeaxanthin. And both of those are really important for your vision or your eye health. So getting those nutrients can help keep your vision strong. And one other thing that's interesting is with a lot of these nutrients, you need a little fat for their absorption. So one of the best ways to eat butternut squash or other squashes is to drizzle with a little olive oil and roast them. And of course, this soup is a delicious way as well. Another thing about butternut squash is that it contains magnesium and potassium, which are both important nutrients for healthy blood pressure. So looking at some of the other squash options, I just wanted to share a little bit about some of the different varieties that are out there. And you can see on the slide the details about each of these varieties and how you might use them. So feel free to pause the video and take some time to read this slide. But spaghetti squash is a delicious option, probably not so much for this soup recipe, but it's a really great squash to experiment with. It's pretty fancy if you kind of roast it and watch how it really turns into what looks like spaghetti pasta, which is kind of cool. Butternut squash is in the recipe, delicata squash, and acorn squash. So there's a lot of different varieties of winter squashes. I'd encourage you to try different ones. They're really delicious roasted. And this soup is a perfect example of how to prepare squash. So thanks for your attention.